And Boomer joins us as he does every week on the Harbor One hotline. Hey, Boomer.
Hey, good morning, guys. How's everybody down there, or up there, I should say?
We're doing great. I've been saying that I refuse to say it's must win for Bill Belichick because I don't know if there's such a thing. But it's an important game. Is it a must win for Mac Jones tonight?
Yeah, I think it's a must win for everybody because if they do win, they'll be right smack dab in the playoffs again as they'll leap over the Chargers and the Jets, and they'll be, I think, the 7th seed. So I think this is where, this is the push to the end of the season, the stretch run, if you will. And, it's Bill Belichick, it's Cliff Kingsbury, it's Kyler Murray. They're a mess out in Arizona. And I would imagine that because of all the noise over the past week about the Patriot passing game and what they're not doing, what they should be doing, and the bitching and complaining coming from the fans and the players alike, that you're going to see a lot more balls thrown down the field because usually that's what NFL coaches do. They react to the criticism, and I would imagine tonight we will see Mac Jones attempting more passes deeper down the field than we saw last week.
Boom, when you think about that, Arizona's defense, they're not very good, and so if that's the approach that they're going to take, and we heard Van Joseph, the defense coordinator, talk about Matt Patricia and his play calling. Is that the approach that you would take then, is just come out and say, all right, we're going to open this playbook up, or would you still try to do the things that have kind of worked for you a little bit throughout the season, which is kind of maybe run the football to establish some deeper shots down the field?
I was a little surprised what Vance Joseph said this week. Most coaches just keep their mouths shut and they say nice things about each other and nice things about their players and how they have to improve and things like that. But, Vance kind of stepped out a little bit when he did say that it looked like Matt Patricia was calling plays like a defensive coordinator. And I'm like, oh, man, you're asking for it. This is like pedal to the metal. There's that behind-the-scenes coaching competition that goes on in all of these games. And normally, like I said, everybody usually says the right things about the people that they're about to play against. And when I saw Vance say that, I was just thinking to myself, what is Bill Belichick going to do with that, and how is he going to use that to motivate his team? So I would think that, they're always going to try to run the ball. That's always going to be their moniker. This is what happens late in December. You have to be able to do that, especially when you play here in the Northeast, even though this game is out in the desert in the dome. I still think you have to lead with that, but I just think that there's going to be opportunities down the field tonight. And I do think that Mac Jones will be allowed to do that. Think about the Minnesota game when they went on the road to Minnesota. So I think this is very similar with one very big difference, and that is you're playing a very mobile quarterback who likes to play street ball and ends up making 5 or 6 plays a game just by running around. And that's the question as to whether or not, the Patriot defense can kind of stop him and slow him down a little bit from keeping him from making those types of plays.
Boomer, how important is it for this Patriots team not to look forward ahead? Obviously, they need to win these next two to even have a chance, because you look at the end of the schedule and their AFC teams that they need to get at least one win to have a shot at the playoffs if they win the next two. How important is it for them to focus on what they have ahead of them and not at the end of the season?
Courtney, I always say this. It's one snap, it's one series, one quarter, and one half at a time. That's the way you got to look at it. It's got to be that simple. You start looking ahead, man. If they start looking ahead, then they get in trouble. We as media people and fans certainly can look ahead. And I know one thing. I believe that last game in Buffalo is going to mean something for the Buffalo Bills. They're hanging on to this number 1 seed. Kansas City is right on their heels. They're going to need every single win they possibly can bank. And that win right there could give Buffalo home field advantage throughout the AFC playoffs. So that's not going to be an easy game by any stretch of the imagination. So take care of tonight. Worry about Las Vegas next week. And then, Miami, I don't know if you guys saw any of this game last night. Miami was not great. And all of a sudden, 2 of the last couple of weeks, has lost his way. And I don't know what's going on with them. But I know that that's always going to be a tough game for New England when they play Miami. So maybe they'll be catching them at the right time, but I would just say take care of business tonight and then worry about next week.
Speaking of looking ahead, if Tom Brady is doing it, does he see himself immediately getting the you-know-what out of Tampa Bay?
Yeah, what a mess that is, man. Boy, they got their asses kicked yesterday. Not unexpectedly, to be honest with you. I thought they would lose the game. I didn't think they would lose that bad, but it just goes to show you how good this damn San Francisco team is. I mean, they're loaded everywhere except now with this rookie quarterback who played really well yesterday. They limited his throws, and the throws that he did make were big-time throws, especially the one they threw to Christian McCaffrey for the touchdown. I would just say that that's a team that's going to be a bitch to play against. That defense, hits opposing quarterbacks probably between 10 and 15 times a game. So it's not unexpected that they lost. I think how they lost and how bad they lost was a little bit of a surprise.
Boomer, when you look at the end of the season here, and I think, Courtney, she brought up a great point, not really looking ahead. But I'm kind of under the mindset that I think 9 wins get you in. So the importance of, obviously Courtney brought up the next 2 and trying to be able to steal one of the 3 from either Miami, Cincinnati, or Buffalo. Do you think that 9 wins will be able to get a team, into that 7 spot? Or do you still think it's going to be a 10, you're going to have to get to 10 wins?
I think in the AFC, I kind of feel like it's 10 wins. Mm-hmm. And by the way, I can't tell you how surprised I am that you actually gave somebody credit on this radio program. I don't know what's going on between you and Courtney, but whatever it is, I like it. I like the fact that there's a softer side to you, Jermaine, and I appreciate that. But I still think in the AFC, it's going to be 10 wins. In the NFC, 9, 7, and 1 could get you in, and that tie between the Commanders and the Giants, and with Seattle losing yesterday, does wonders for those guys here as we come down to the end of the season.
Boy, there must be some frustration with the Giants there this morning, Boomer.
You know what, guys? What I saw was the best team in the league versus one of the worst teams in the league, and it really showed a major disparity in talent, especially with the way the Giants are constructed right now with the injuries and the problems that they have in the secondary. But Jalen Hurts, I don't think, broke a sweat yesterday. And the Giant fan is just besides themselves. They can't believe what they saw. It looked like a team that had given up in the middle of the game. But they just don't have bodies. They don't have wide receivers. They don't have secondary people. They're playing with guys that would never play in this league. That's how desperate they are to put guys out on the field. And Joe Shane and Brian Daboll, while they have done a great job up to this point, it just goes to show you how much of a job they have moving forward. And I hear people talking about how Daniel Jones is the answer. I can't really evaluate him because of who he's playing with and how their offensive line just got totally steamrolled yesterday. So it is a big disparity between them and Philadelphia, and the work that has to be done behind the scenes this offseason is going to be, nonstop. It's going to be 24/7, 365. They have to figure out how to improve this roster significantly if they want to have a chance here.
Speaking of coaches, Dan Campbell may just have his guys biting kneecaps and ass cheeks right into the playoffs, Boomer.
All right, come on. Aren't we all rooting for this guy? I am rooting for him. He is old school, and here's the great thing about what they're doing. So they have one of the best offensive lines of football. They have a lot of top draft choices up there. Aiden Hutchinson has been as advertised as a defensive end. Jared Goff's playing his best football of the season. They now have 3 top wide receivers that are playmakers, and now that Jameson Williams is back on the field for them, they have a speed burner. You look at their schedule, guys, there is a very good chance they could win out. If they can win the game this week at the Jets, it's not going to be an easy game this week at the Jets, depending on what the weather is and everything else, but about 4 weeks ago, they came in here and just absolutely destroyed the Giants. Jets, much better team, much better defense, much better offense. So if they could beat the Jets, I'm telling you, the Lions are going to be in the playoffs, which would be amazing. And I think Dan Campbell should get Coach of the Year if that would be the case.
How pissed are you if you're a Panthers fan right now? Because it's a disaster there. And then you have Steve Wilkes yesterday saying that the organization is trying to tank, and he's giving all the credit to the players for still performing throughout it all.
All right, so saying what he just said, I didn't read that, Courtney, so I'm going to take your word for it. If he said that, he's out of a job. There's no way that David Tepper is keeping a coach that's saying the organization's trying to tank. You can't say that. You gotta go out there and you got to give credit to your players. You got to give credit to Sam Darnold. The last 2 games, he's won 2 in a row right now. Yesterday looked pretty good, not great, just pretty good. The Seattle defense is one of the worst in the league, so I'd be careful about, thumping my chest about how great my team is and how great we're playing. But, boy, I'll tell you what, when a coach says the organization is trying to tank, that is, that's finable stuff, that's fireable stuff. And I know that he's frustrated because David Tepper said when he got the job in the middle of the year when they fired Matt Rule that he would have to do something extraordinary to keep the job. And I feel like David Tepper has already got his eyes on one or two guys out there. And I think this is just Steve Wilkes saying, you know what, you're screwing me, you're screwing our team, and I want everybody to know it.
Boom. The AFC we always thought was Kansas City, Buffalo. Is there a chance that it looks like your team, your former team, the Cincinnati Bengals, are starting to climb into that conversation?
Oh, they're in that conversation, all right. You know, Joe Burrow the last 5 weeks has played unbelievable football. The stats, you know, they're not gaudy. All he is doing is just playing tough. He's playing smart. He's not. Yesterday he had a tip interception, but he is just playing like almost perfect football, flawless type football from the quarterback position. I can't say enough about how he has played. Even against tough defenses, he just looks so much more confident than everybody that's playing the position right now. So if he plays like that and this defense, now they lost Mike Hilton yesterday. I don't know how bad the injury is. He's their slot cornerback, and he was one of the best in the league at that position. That's going to be hard to refill if he's out for the rest of the season. But I just think that they are playing about as well as anybody, and they got 5 in a row, and I don't see them slowing down anytime soon.
Question of the week for Boomer is brought to you by McFarland Energy, the always reliable HVAC and home oil delivery pros at McFarlandEnergy.com. Boomer, after what he said on the Brady podcast this week, you think Sean Payton ends up coaching somewhere next season in the NFL, maybe Denver?
I think he does. I think there's going to be a team out there that's going to want to meet his number. I guess everybody thinks that he's like the next Paul Bear Bryant or Vince Lombardi or Paul Brown for that matter. Bill Belichick. Yeah, somebody like that. You know, one of these really great coaches. But, you know, and somebody will pay his number. The only team that I think that would pay that number because of who the owner is would be the Denver Broncos. I don't see the Chargers. You know, the Chargers won last night, so they're 7-6. They have one of the wild cards right now. And I think it's going to take a playoff appearance by the Chargers for Brandon Staley to remain in place, I would think. So, and the Chargers are not paying anybody $20 million a year to coach them. So who is the team that would need to reevaluate everything they're doing, reinvigorate their fan base? And to me, that would be Denver, unfortunately, for Nathaniel Hackett. And if I'm telling you, Sean Payton gets in there, he is going to be all over Russell Wilson's ass. There's not going to be any offices in the building. There's not going to be all this other, Russ merchandise and all this other crap. You're going to be a part of the team, and I'm going to be on your ass. And I think he's probably the only coach out there that I can think of right now that can go in there and straighten out their offense and straighten out their quarterback.
Maybe he could be an assistant under Jeff Saturday for a year.
Oh, God. Yeah. Well, Jeff Saturday, and Wiggy could attest to this. I would never want to do what he's doing. I mean, I don't know how anybody could come out of the booth who's never done it before. It's one thing, like if Coach Cowher left us and went to go coach somebody, I could understand that. At least he has the history and the respect and the credibility. What Jeff is trying to do in Indianapolis is virtually impossible, and I think it's showing itself on the field. And you have a meddling owner, and you have players that are all wondering, what is going on? Do we still have a chance? And I'm sure he's trying to sell them on the fact that the Titans have fallen off a cliff here the last couple of weeks, that they're still in it. That's what I would do. But then again, the indecision, situational decision-making that's been going on is left a lot to be desired, and you just can't pick that up just because you're a good TV announcer.
Before you go, I was asked on Thursday by one of our regular guests to pass a message along to you. That's the great Mike Milbury.
Oh, yeah.
NHL star and NHL coach.
I know who Mike Milbury is. He climbed into the stands at MSG, for God's sake.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. We could have used him in that Bruins fight with the Arizona fans on Friday night.
Yeah, man, that was unbelievable.
But he said he read a piece on you and your son, and he just was wildly impressed by it, as we all are. So he wanted us to pass that along to you.
Well, that's very nice. Mike Milbury actually has a heart. That's very nice. I know Mike from his time from being the GM down here at the Islanders. Always appreciated Mike. Always thought Mike was a great guy. And tell him I said hello.
All right, Boomer. Last time I will talk to you before Christmas, so hope you have a great holiday, and hope the gifts are on the way. And
well, listen, the gifts are on the way.
Okay,
and I will just say this to Jermaine. Jermaine, if you want to re-gift the gift, you can, and then you will impress somebody with your class if you do that.
Well, I usually like to do that.
Ooh,
Unless it's headphones.
all right, Boomer.
All right, see you guys.